Hello. Go ahead, please. You're on Black Journal.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask the question, why does the doctor feel that his theory, Dr. Shockley, why did you feel that your theory is correct?
Well, let me say that's a long question. Let me point out one aspect. I mean, it's a question that calls for a very long answer. I think I might just at this point say that in a time like 1 hour, we may expose a problem and encourage thinking about it, and this is a very valuable thing. But to cover either Dr. Welsing's views or mine, and let me say here are, just to show that these things exist, is a pamphlet that she was good enough to give me some time ago.
This one's upside down.
Well, that one's upside down. Yeah, thank you.
Right.
And this is one of my own. It's actually a collection of a debate.
The Imperative of Ethnic Education is yours.
This is the issue of the journal. Mine was, the title of my paper is somewhat different from this, but I want to say that speaking for myself, if people would like to write to me at Stanford University, I have a post box there, Post Box S, which is the same as Shockley and Stanford. I will try to supply more information, and I'm sure Dr. Welsing will say what she can do about making telling people how to reach her pamphlet. Okay. But now let me say this chart that I held up a moment ago is very important in respect to this question of why I think there may be what proves a basic difference. But I'm going to say that if there were not a basic difference in intellectual capacity in the past, there probably will be a basic difference between black and white intellectual capacity in the future, simply because of the reproduction patterns. And these are Census Bureau data, and this is the most threatening aspect. And what it indicates is that for the black women of the lowest intellectual social class, which are rural farm women, generally the education is least, the average number of children is 5.4. For women with college degrees, it's 1.9. And so this is definitely unfavorable. It is reproducing far more at the bottom end and not enough to keep even at the top end.
Dr. Shockley, can
for whites, let me just finish this. For whites, the numbers are also in this direction, but nowhere nearly as severe.
Dr. Shockley, I think that in all fairness, you should explain to the audience why it is that you have, first of all, you have a very large segment of the black population who are on farms, who are deprived in cities. Why don't you explain at the time that you're showing this, who is keeping black people in a situation like they're in? I mean, it could be, you could turn it around the other way, where you could have very large numbers of black people who are exposed to educational opportunities like white people, who are exposed to housing, who are exposed to health facilities. Why don't you explain that at the same time that you put figures like that?
I'm sure you would explain it,
no, but
Dr.
I think
Welsing,
it's important
but
in
one must say first things first. And you've raised the basic question there, and that is whether the disadvantages are primarily a lack of opportunity or whether they are primarily a basic genetic difference. And let me mention one thing, which is that in certain areas there is no doubt about black superiority. Blacks are superior in visual acuity, and they're superior in a systematic way. Now, I don't expect that people will understand the details of this, but I simply want to show that quantitative work can be done. This happens to be a research job of my own, and what it shows, because these points that you see here lie on a line which is not the central line, but they lie systematically on a line, what it says is that so far as visual acuity is concerned, blacks are systematically better than whites. It's as if their bell-shaped curve, their distribution curve, were pushed upwards compared to whites for visual acuity, or at least for the avoidance of bad eyesight, such that if the same shift occurred for IQ, it would mean that the average IQ distribution would be up by 9 points rather than down by about 15 points, which is the typical average.
Dr. Shockley, visual acuity is probably something that the system of white supremacy has not necessarily seen the need to affect the environment that black people are in, so that it will alter the fact that they have visual acuity that is superior to whites. The fact of visual acuity is not attacked in the same way as educational opportunity and job performance is attacked. And I think that
it's evidence for a genetic difference, in
well,
my
you see what I'm saying? There might be many, many more genetic differences where people of color appear superior.
If I may, we have a number of people and would like to get to as many as possible. If you could make your answers as not to compromise your explanation. But if you could make your answers as succinct, I would appreciate it, because we would like to involve the public as much as we can. One moment, please.
Welcome to the Acecaponersc Show. That right there was Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Dr. William Shockley of Stanford. That debate occurred, I believe, in the 70s. And you can tell by her big afro that she was a soul sister. But Dr. Francis Cress Welsing wrote a few books about black boys and the dynamics between black men and women. She was in this debate. I think she was out of her league in this debate, because she was producing more emotional and subjective facts, reasoning, because I don't think they were actually facts. You know, when you're trying to mock people, talking about white people have more diseases, so what? Why does it matter? Or, hey, there's some white people who perform at the bottom, so what? What is your point? And this video shows, it proved a lot. It proved her wrong and proved him correct, because as she was saying, well, if you give blacks the opportunity to attend schools and to get better education, and I have to be honest, prior to 1960, blacks were very, very upward. They were successful. And I'm not saying every last black person was successful, but you had a lot of black entrepreneurs that built in their communities. You had schools that were producing people like Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver. You had a lot of blacks who basically they valued their education, and the literacy rate at that time of blacks was higher than those of whites. And so they were outpacing. And as far as wealth was concerned, they were very competitive with whites until the civil rights movement came and derailed everything. Martin Luther King was basically an agent of chaos for the black community. He destroyed the black community, and this is why he's a champion to the liberals, because he did their bidding. They funded him. They covered all of his garbage up. The man was an outright Marxist and socialist. So he had nothing good for the black community, and this debate pretty much outlines the after effect of the civil rights movement, as Dr. Shockley so eloquently put it. He said, you have black people that are educated with 1.9 children, and you have blacks who are poor and uneducated producing 5.4. You're outpacing your best. And what do you see today? You have poor blacks outpacing educated blacks, and then they turn on those blacks by calling them Uncle Toms, you're a sellout, oh, you're square, you don't fit in. And this is the rift in the black community. You don't have a lot of upward growth. You don't have a lot of business people in black communities. You don't have a lot of people who to network with. You have a bunch of hood guys and a lot of hood chicks who twerk. That's their only commodity. They are quick to fight, quick to anger. They don't want to listen. They don't want to hear. So basically, what he said was absolutely factual. You have people out here who don't want to learn. They want fast money. They're not able, and they're not willing to say, hey, you know what? Let me sacrifice a little bit of time and effort and get out here and do something with myself. That is not the culture. The culture is shoot 'em up, beat 'em up, twerk it up, sex it up, and that is the black culture. It's toxic. Anyone that gets involved with it is destroyed. You'll see people like Eminem, he's a degenerate, but he's hanging out with people. Anyone that hangs out in that culture becomes infected with it, and they behave accordingly. You know, I've seen a lot of white women, and you can look at them and be like, oh yeah, that girl dates a black dude. From the way she wears her hair, from the way her skin looks, the way she talks, you know, the long nails, the black lipstick. It's destructive. It's not positive. And people mocked William Shockley in this debate. They laughed at him. They called him a racist. You know, and when people are telling you the truth, the labels start to come. When you're telling the truth, people don't want it, to have that mirror in front of them. And you had blacks calling, mocking him. They're trying to talk about ancient history that they know nothing about. They're talking about maybe one champion to compare to the bulk of white society. And as I said, not all white people are smart. Not all white people contribute to the building of this country. But the numbers were great enough that they built the country. You can't say that in other places. You can look at the continent of Africa. No one's building anything. Chinese, Russians, America go to Africa to build. The structures you see over there in Africa, the whites built. They brag about, oh, look at our thriving cities. You didn't build that. Africans don't build cities. They have whites come over, or the Chinese come over, or the Russians come over, and those people build their cities. Those people are, right now, it's the Chinese that are giving them equipment and helping them build their roads. The Africans aren't building roads. They build nothing in Africa. And that type of dynamic goes on here in America, where you have people who love the projects, they sing about the projects, they call each other the N-word all day long, and then they get offended because someone else says it. You're entertained by it. The degeneracy is deep. And the change in culture needs to happen quickly, because right now AI is coming and it doesn't care if you're ghetto. If you're ghetto after the completion of AI, you will be eliminated. You will be absolutely worth it. There's no more, we're going to come together. Ooh, let's get the struggle. Ooh, we're going to get it together. No, it's too late. Too late, buddy. Too late, way too late. You missed that boat. You screwed that up. You got to get it together now. There's no way you're going to compete with technology. The technology is moving so fast, and if your children aren't in STEM, if they're not learning how to program, if they're not learning how the new generation of technology works and how to produce it, you're going to be in the dark. And that's just on an American level. If you're in a country or on a continent that is so far behind, because there's no one making cell phones in Africa. There's no satellite building in Africa. No vehicles, no tanks, no boats, no planes, no weapons. They're cooked. Everything Africa gets, they get from the outside. They're not producing anything. So this chest pounding of people say, oh yeah, Africa was great. Africa was great. Africa's not great anymore, buddy. Sorry to give you a news flash and slap you with current events, but Africa's trash. It's a shithole country. It's a shithole continent filled with shithole countries and deadbeat dictators that flaunt their money and then they move over to Great Britain. Those African billionaires, they go over to England. They don't stay in Africa. They don't educate their children in Africa. They send them to Europe. where they live. And they flaunt their money, and then they marry white women. So, so there you go. Tells you everything you need to know. They don't even believe in their continent. So all this talking about how great Africa is and how great Africa was is nonsense. You're going to have to be able to say, hey, you know what? We're lacking, and we got to do better. Let's watch the last part of this video. I think it's up to 22. It's not much longer, but let's check it out, and then I'll make final comments.
Key clauses, phrases, is regardless of sex, race, or welfare status. And this is the proposal. I call it a thinking exercise. It's mentioned in that pamphlet that I showed that you can obtain. And it goes this way, that you would offer a bonus to everyone to be sterilized. Now, we know we have a population explosion problem. We know that in India that bonuses in the form of transistor radios are offered to people.
Would this bonus be directed to black people specifically, more than white?
Mr. Brown, what did I say just a moment ago? I said, regardless of sex, race, or welfare status.
Now, there is a group.
Dr. Shockley.
That's what I say.
There is a group of white people to whom this offer should be made also.
Absolutely.
What
Now the
offer
is based upon the best estimates, best scientific estimates that one can have of any genetically carried disabilities. Now there are some, I think, that any humane person would have no doubt about. And Dr. Welsing talked about dominant and recessive genes. I want to point out.
I think in this point they were talking about eugenics, a term that Dr. Shockley had coined, but eugenics was similar to eugenics, and it's still alive and well today. Instead of calling it eugenics, we just call it child deletion. And today, you know, back then, at the time of this video, black women were saying, there's no way I'm going to delete my children. Our children are our future. And they had fathers, and they had a nuclear family that was slowly coming apart because of the welfare state and the fact that black women sold out their families for a check, and the men were so weak they encouraged these women to go ahead and take the check so they could get some government money. So when you hear people saying, oh, the government broke up our families, no, you're just greedy and you wanted pennies, so you sold yourselves out by taking the government, by jumping on the government teat. No one forced you to take it. Matter of fact, everyone was offered that check. And other women in other communities said, no, I take my man over a check because my man is able to improve himself and get a job and take care of his family. But the black woman had no confidence in the black man, and the black man said, hey, take that check and we can live easily. I'll just sneak out when they come by, or creep out the window if they come by to do a check. And this is what happened. People don't want to tell the whole story. Black men and women conspired to destroy their own families. He wanted to be lazy and get a check. She wanted the check. She wanted the wealth. She wanted the food stamps, and she wanted that monthly check. And it went over to other things too, but we won't get into it. But this is how the destruction began. And when there's no father in the house and there's no discipline, you send these people off to school, and they treat the teachers just the way the family, their parents treat other people. There's no discipline in the home, so there's no discipline in the school. You have mothers and fathers that will go up to the school and tell teachers in their face and principals, don't you yell at my children, don't you tell my kid what to do. So the child sees this and says, well, they can't tell me what to do. So you have unruly children. And you can't be successful in society with unruly people, because unruly people become violent. And when you have these violent people, they can't be productive because they're always against something. They're always a victim. They're always against, oh, society is racist. Oh, society is against me. It doesn't matter if I go to school, they're still going to be racist towards me. It's just nonsense, one excuse after another. They can't win. And with this mentality, it's very destructive and toxic. You should avoid it at all costs. I thought this was a very good debate. You can watch the entire debate. There are a lot of good points. She had some nice, pretty words. Nothing really of substance. The comments in the videos, people were really, patting her on the back, saying she won and all this. But this is, people love to hear nice, flowery words because they don't have to be responsible. When you have to be responsible, you say, whoa, I understand you want it to sound good, but it doesn't make us responsible. It doesn't help us grow. And it isn't helping us. It hasn't helped the black community grow. It's actually helped it devolved into a crime-ridden, degenerate, immoral community. And I know people don't want to hear that. But if you ask people, where would you like to work? Well, there are no jobs in the black community. Where would you like to live? Sure, you don't want to live in a black community. Where would you want to go to school? Not around those black kids. The truth is in your face, but you have people out here saying, oh no, we're great. You're so great. Why are people trying to avoid you? Why is your culture so bad and toxic? It's always something dealing with violence. And this culture is never going to produce anything of value. And until they understand this, they're going to suffer. Let me know what you think. Down below, drop me a line, subscribe, hit that bell for the notifications. But as always, this is Ace Capone. Peace. And I'm gone.